big thank you to Antlion Audio for sponsoring this video. I've been working on this $200 console killer PC, and after weeks of building, modifying, tuning, and testing, I'm finally ready to unveil it to the world. But I actually think it might be a lot slower than I had hoped.
Wow, that's pretty bad.
This was a project to see if I can build a computer that compares to the Series S in almost every category: form factor, energy efficiency, user experience, gaming, and price. For $197.49, including all the supplies we needed to actually make the computer operational. And that took a while. I mean, you can watch my previous videos to see just how I did that.
Oh no.
This is what we got: a 6-core i5-8400, 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM, a 256 gig NVMe SSD, a 240 watt power supply, and a 6 gigabyte ARC A380 video card. Throw in a keyboard, a mouse, and a Bluetooth Wi-Fi adapter, and you have an entire setup for under $250. And if you want to sound absolutely smooth in voice chat, you can't forget your microphone of choice, the Mod Mic from Antlion. I've used the Mod Mic wireless for almost all of my videos the past year to get crispy, full audio. And if wireless isn't your cup of tea, they also have a USB version and a 3.5mm version as well. All of the Mod Mics attach to any pair of headphones. And as a matter of fact, they actually attach to non-headphones too. Like, you can attach it to almost anything you'd like. Antlion also just released their new Mod Mic USB 2 that supports both USB-A and USB-C, and their Mod Mic Uni 2, which supports the 3.5mm or aux output. These new models have improved audio quality and a new microphone capsule. The new capsule has a cardioid pattern that reduces background noise, and so you don't have to switch between speaking modes anymore. You just have one singular one. And both the USB 2 and the Uni 2 support practically every device that supports external microphones. So if you want to learn more about Mod Mics or pick one up for yourself, then click the link in the description. I've used them for about a year, and I fully stand behind them. As a regular computer, my Xbox Project PC actually works pretty well. It's snappy enough for regular office computer tasks. It's only 8.2 liters, so it can fit on almost any desk in any setup, and it only consumes like 140 watts of energy in gaming. You can obviously use it as a regular PC with a keyboard and a mouse, but you can also enable Steam Big Picture mode and connect an Xbox controller to have that console-like experience. You can play most Xbox games on it, you have PC exclusives at your disposal, and you can even emulate older console games from the Wii generation essentially, and before. It honestly has a lot going for it. But so does the Xbox. It's only like 3 liters, so it's way more portable, and it only consumes about 77 watts of energy during active 1440p gameplay. That's like half the energy consumption of the computer. It also does not require invasive modifications to actually start using the system, unlike my computer did. And lastly, and I kind of don't want to admit this, but it's just better at playing games. Yeah. Now, this PC isn't bad for gaming if you have the correct expectations for a $200 computer, but it does fall short of the Xbox. And as games become more difficult to run, that point becomes even clearer. I tested 6 different games that are available on both Xbox and PC. The Xbox has a target resolution, a target average FPS, and target visual settings. Ideally, my PC would perform the same or better than the Xbox using the same resolution and the same settings. So let's kick things off with Overwatch 2. The Series S has a 120 FPS target at 1408 by 1080, so a little lower than 1080p. It took a while to find comfortable settings for my PC, but I eventually landed on 1080p with a 90% minimum resolution scale and a mix of low and medium settings. We averaged around 120 FPS with the frame cap on, and 99% of the time stayed above 60 FPS. You can play this game without a frame cap on this computer, but you will sacrifice stability. Frames would randomly drop here and there, especially in big team fights, and it just made the game less than pleasant. So can this computer play Overwatch 2 with console settings? Yes, it can. It's totally fine. But it just doesn't reach the same level as the Xbox. Next we have New World Aeternum. The Series S plays New World Aeternum beautifully. In solo combat, it averages over 60 FPS in quality mode, 2K mode, and in performance mode. The PC handles New World Aeternum pretty well, but similar to Overwatch 2, it just falls short of the Xbox. At 1080p, using dynamic resolution scaling and low settings, we hover around 60 FPS in solo combat, but still drop to the 30s and 40s when we join crowded areas. It's close to the Xbox's performance, but we're at least a tier below the Xbox in visual settings. Still, it was a fun time. Now, Cyberpunk did surprisingly well on this computer. At 1080p with quality FSR, it averaged around 60 FPS in the benchmark and hovered between the mid-40s and mid-50s in a car chase scene. Unfortunately, the Series S consistently stays at 60 FPS at full 1080p using its performance mode, so it still beats my $200 computer. But credit where credit's due, it does put up a pretty good fight. Now, Doom Eternal is a fun one because the Xbox absolutely demolishes this game. In a good way. Most of the time it runs the game at full 1080p and it rarely dips below 120 FPS. Doom Eternal is also a ton of fun on my computer, but it can only offer the same performance at a lower resolution. The PC hit the 120 FPS target with a 50-50 split between medium and low settings, and with dynamic resolution scaling enabled. The PC had to run at a lower resolution to compare to the Xbox, so the Xbox wins here as well. Now here is where things get a little difficult for the poor computer. The Xbox plays Alan Wake 2 at approximately a 720p internal resolution, and it has a 30 FPS target with a mix of low and medium settings, and it's able to hit that target pretty consistently. My PC, on the other hand, struggled. Understandably so. Alan Wake 2 is not an easy game to run, but even after dialing back the settings to the lowest I could find and making the internal resolution 720p, we still could only average about 27 FPS, and it wasn't the most consistent. As a matter of fact, to hit our 30 FPS target, I had to lower the internal resolution to 1066 by 600. 600p. Yeah, that's pretty bad. And finally, I tried Hogwarts Legacy. Now, maybe this is just me, and it takes a lot for me to say this, but the game looked really bad with FSR enabled, even with quality FSR. And even so, I still couldn't hit a stable 30 FPS. So instead, I turned FSR off and I put a frame cap on, and using medium settings, we were actually able to average 30 FPS. It just didn't feel like it though, and that's because there were a ton of micro stutters in this game. The gameplay footage may not capture it well, but it just wasn't a pleasant experience. And there's just no competition with the Xbox Series S here. It does use FSR in fidelity mode, but it's a smooth 30 FPS with a mix of medium and high settings at 1080p. It just blows my computer out of the water. I really have enjoyed this $200 PC project, but it's not the Xbox killer that I had hoped for. It's not even the Xbox rival. It's more like an Xbox slight inconvenience. It's cool enough to highlight in a video series, but not powerful enough nor versatile enough to really make a statement. Nonetheless, I do have a couple of ways to improve the computer. Firstly, I would add more RAM. I tested a few games with 16 gigs of RAM and it made a world of difference. Stuttering mostly disappeared in Hogwarts Legacy, for example. And I even saw an average FPS boost in some of the games that I tested. So fitting 16 gigs of RAM in the budget somehow would absolutely be necessary. Secondly, I would just buy a faster video card. I chose the A380 because it was the best option considering the circumstances and the price at the time. I also wanted a reason to try the resizable bar BIOS modification. But if I really wanted to maximize performance, I would wait for a local deal on a GTX 1650 Super or RTX 3050 low profile instead. It would unfortunately take longer, and it's not something that my viewers can replicate easily, but I think the performance boost justifies it. And although this was a fun project, I just can't recommend it. I think if you're spending $200 to $250 on a gaming machine, the Series S is a fine choice, and I wouldn't blame you if that's what you chose. But I don't want you to leave this project thinking that you cannot build a viable gaming computer at this price point. You can. You just need to accept that it's going to run a little hotter, it's going to be a little louder, and a little bigger than a comparable console. What I'm saying is, build the fastest computer that you can when you have such a low budget. Don't worry about the other things. But let me know what you guys thought about this project and the changes that you yourself would make on this computer, and if there are any changes that I should actually incorporate into a future video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and a big shout out to Antline Audio for sponsoring this video. Definitely check out their mod mic. I love these things. They're great. Link will be in the description. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.